In a world where words carry power, some moments remind us of true leadership. A press room filled with reporters, cameras flashing, and one determined woman standing tall. She isn't just here to speak, she's here to defend, to inspire, to set the record straight. But today she's about to deliver a response that no one saw coming. And it all begins with a simple but ridiculous question. Before we continue this incredible story, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon. That way you'll never miss an inspiring, thought-provoking story like this one. Now let's dive back in. As she steps up to the podium, the atmosphere in the room shifts. The energy is tense, but she remains composed. She adjusts the microphone, offering a polite but firm smile. She knows what's coming. The same old tactics, the same loaded questions. But she's ready, because this isn't just about answering a question, it's about standing up for the truth. Then from the front row, a CNN reporter clears his throat. He leans forward, smirking slightly, ready to set a trap. His tone is condescending, laced with the kind of arrogance that only comes from someone who thinks they've already won. He asks his question, confident that he's about to corner her, that this will be the moment she stumbles. But what he doesn't know is that he's just made a massive mistake. The room goes silent. Some reporters glance at each other, sensing the tension. The press secretary tilts her head slightly, as if she's trying to process the sheer absurdity of what she just heard. And then, with a quiet confidence that only a true professional can wield, she begins to speak. And within moments, everything changes. The question hangs in the air, dripping with bias and bad faith. The CNN reporter leans back, arms crossed, a smug grin creeping across his face. He thinks he's won this exchange before it even begins. The room is waiting, microphones ready, cameras rolling, eager to capture a moment of weakness. But there is none. The press secretary exhales slowly, her expression unreadable. She doesn't react with frustration, nor does she rush to answer. Instead, she lets the silence stretch just long enough to shift the weight of the moment. The tension builds. The reporter's smirk flickers. Just for a second, and then she speaks. Her voice is calm but firm, slicing through the air like a blade. She doesn't raise her voice, doesn't let emotion take control. Instead, she dismantles the premise of the question with surgical precision. Point by point, fact by fact, she exposes the reporter's attempt to twist the narrative. She doesn't just answer, she educates. The CNN reporter shifts in his seat. His confidence wavers. He tries to interject, but she doesn't give him the chance. She is in complete control now, flipping the script, holding him accountable for the misleading framing of his question. And as she speaks, something remarkable happens. The energy in the room changes. Some reporters exchange glances, sensing that this isn't going the way they expected. Others lower their pens, suddenly more interested in listening than writing their pre-planned headlines. The press secretary pauses for a beat, letting her words sink in. The reporter stammers, trying to recover, but he can't. The damage is done. His attempt to trap her has backfired spectacularly, and now all eyes are on him. The silence in the room is deafening. The once smug CNN reporter is suddenly shifting in his seat, gripping his notepad a little tighter. The confidence he had just moments ago is gone, replaced by a flicker of unease. He opens his mouth as if to speak, but no words come out. He's been outmaneuvered, and he knows it. The press secretary, however, remains poised. She doesn't gloat, doesn't smirk, doesn't mock. That's not her style. Instead, she does something far more powerful. She leans into the facts. With unwavering confidence, she repeats the key details, ensuring that there is no room for misinterpretation. She doesn't just respond, she dismantles the false narrative piece by piece, leaving nothing but the undeniable truth standing. The room watches in fascination. Some journalists glance at each other, sensing the shift. Even those who walked in ready to criticize her can't ignore the strength of her response. A few press members begin scribbling notes furiously, realizing they may have to rewrite their headlines. The energy has changed. This isn't just another press briefing, it's a masterclass in composure under fire. The CNN reporter, now visibly uncomfortable, clears his throat and tries to salvage the situation. He attempts to reframe his question, to twist the narrative back in his favor, but it's too late. The press secretary is prepared for this too. Before he can even finish his sentence, she calmly interjects, not with anger, but with precision. She reminds him and everyone in the room of the facts. She points out the inconsistencies in his framing, making it clear that the truth is not up for debate. She isn't just defending the administration, she's defending reality itself. The reporter exhales sharply, clearly realizing that there's no winning this exchange. His usual tactics aren't working, and the audience is starting to see through them. His smirk is long gone. Instead, he leans back, defeated, his pen tapping against his notepad in frustration. And then, in a final moment of brilliance, the press secretary delivers the knockout blow. A closing remark so sharp, so undeniable, that the entire room is left in stunned silence. The press secretary pauses for just a moment, letting the weight of her words settle over the room. She doesn't need to raise her voice or resort to theatrics. Her confidence alone commands attention. The CNN reporter, who just moments ago seemed so sure of himself, is now visibly uneasy. His attempt to twist the narrative has not only failed, but backfired in a way he never anticipated. She takes a slow, deliberate breath and then delivers the final blow. With a sharp yet composed tone, she points out how the question itself was built on a false premise, a manipulation of reality designed not to seek the truth, but to create a misleading headline. She doesn't just expose the dishonesty, she turns it into a lesson for everyone in the room. You see, she says, looking directly at the reporter, this is exactly the kind of misinformation that confuses the American people. Your question wasn't asked in good faith. It was designed to push a narrative, not to seek the truth. And that's the real issue here. The room is silent, no interruptions, no murmurs. Even those who might not usually agree with her can't deny the strength of her words. A few reporters shift uncomfortably in their seats. Some look down at their notes, perhaps reconsidering their own approach. Others glance at the CNN reporter, waiting for his response, but it's clear he has none. The tension lingers for a beat longer, but she doesn't let it drag. With absolute control, she redirects the conversation back to the facts. She effortlessly pivots, highlighting the administration's accomplishments, addressing the real concerns of the American people, and making it clear that the media's role should be about the truth, not about twisting it. The CNN reporter, still holding his pen as if it might save him, tries to regain his footing. But it's pointless. His usual strategy, framing a question in a way that forces a defensive answer, has completely crumbled. He has nothing left. And then, almost as if to seal his fate, the press secretary leans slightly forward and delivers one last statement. Not in anger, but in a tone so firm, so undeniably confident, that it leaves no room for argument. If you truly cared about informing the American people, you wouldn't ask a question like that. You'd ask about the facts. So I suggest next time you come prepared with real ones. A beat of silence, then a subtle but unmistakable reaction from the room. Some nods of approval, a few quiet whispers, and even a stifled chuckle from the back. The press secretary straightens, her job here done. She doesn't need to say anything else. She's already won. The weight of her words lingers in the air, undeniable and unshaken. The CNN reporter, once brimming with smug confidence, now sits frozen, caught in the very trap he had set for her. He glances down at his notes, flipping through pages as if searching for a way to regain control. But there is none. The press secretary has already dismantled every angle of his argument, and now all that remains is the uncomfortable silence of defeat. The other reporters in the room shift in their seats, eyes darting between the press secretary and the stunned journalist. Some are suppressing smirks, others are hurriedly jotting down notes, realizing that this exchange will dominate the news cycle in a way they hadn't expected. Even the cameras, usually fixated on whoever is speaking, now linger on the CNN reporter, capturing the moment his entire narrative collapsed. The press secretary remains composed. She doesn't gloat, doesn't revel in his discomfort. She simply stands firm, her confidence unshaken. It's not about humiliating a reporter. It's about making sure the truth prevails. The CNN reporter finally clears his throat, trying to salvage what little dignity he has left. Well, I was simply trying to get clarification, he mutters, his voice lacking the conviction it held just minutes ago. A few chuckles ripple through the room. He knows, and everyone else knows, that this isn't about clarification. It never was. It was an attempt to frame a narrative, to back her into a corner where she had to play defense. But now the tables have turned completely, and he is the one scrambling to explain himself. The press secretary raises an eyebrow, but doesn't indulge his weak attempt to recover. Instead, she moves forward, addressing the next question with the same poise and clarity. She has made her point, and there's no need to dwell on the wreckage she just left behind. Meanwhile, back in the press room, the CNN reporter leans back in his chair, his smirk now completely erased. He knows this moment will follow him for a long time. The press secretary, on the other hand, stands tall, unfazed, ready for the next question. She wasn't just answering, she was leading. And that's the difference between playing games and standing for the truth. As the press conference continues, the energy in the room has completely shifted. The press secretary, calm and collected, maintains her composure as she moves on to the next question. But the previous exchange still hangs in the air, undeniable and unforgettable. The CNN reporter, now exposed for his tactics, sits silently, his pen tapping against his notepad, as if he's already planning a way to spin the story in his favor. But it's too late. The cameras have caught everything. The truth is out, and no amount of selective editing can change that. Beyond the walls of the press briefing room, the internet is already ablaze. News clips flood social media, spreading the press secretary's response across every platform. Millions of viewers, from casual observers to political analysts, dissect the moment frame by frame. Some call it a masterclass in handling media bias. Others simply revel in the rare sight of a journalist being held accountable in real time. Memes, reaction videos, and commentary explode across the internet. The CNN reporter's smug expression before the question and his defeated posture afterward become the subject of side-by-side comparisons shared by thousands. Even mainstream news outlets struggle to ignore the moment. Some try to spin it, framing the press secretary as combative, but the raw footage speaks for itself. There was no aggression, no unnecessary theatrics, just facts delivered with unwavering confidence. Meanwhile, in homes and offices across the country, Americans watch the exchange and nod in agreement. Many had grown tired of the media's tactics, of the way narratives were carefully constructed to mislead rather than inform. But this moment, this response feels different. It feels like a shift, like someone finally said what they had all been thinking. Back in the press room, the briefing winds down. The press secretary gives her final remarks, standing just as strong as when she first walked in. She has set the record straight, not just for this one question, but for the broader issue of media accountability. She gathers her papers, steps away from the podium, and exits with the same quiet confidence she carried throughout the entire exchange. The reporters, including the CNN journalist, remain seated, processing what just happened. Some begin whispering among themselves. Others hurriedly type up their articles, knowing that this story will be everywhere by the time they hit publish. As the door closes behind her, one thing is clear. This wasn't just another press conference. This was a turning point, and whether the media likes it or not, the truth just won a major battle.